What were the old gods and were the people of the old times, the so-called pagans, worshipping real gods, or were they just imagination of our figments of the mind? Well, that's a tricky question from certain perspectives, but one may look at this from a certain perspective. See, in the old times, for example, there was a belief called Satanism. Yes, there was another one called Luciferianism. Now, these have been adopted in more modern times and somewhat reverse engineered into, well, something else that would fit certain people what they would seek from the so called occult. See, a cult in the end is a bit like programming. It is the perfect union in between sacred sciences and obviously, let's call that a philosophy or literature, as I prefer to call it. Why? Because occultism deals with everything that is physical. It cannot go beyond the physical because occultism deals with manipulating physicality, manipulating energies, as humans call them. Well, I don't look at energy as just plain energy, I look at it as information, but I have to use corresponding words so that people may hopefully understand. See, occultism deals with manipulation of energy, and just like anything else, it can be used for own benefits, for the benefits of others, and obviously it has certain laws that it functions. It is not something lawless, and obviously each action has its own reaction. When it comes to life, see, in the old beliefs, people did not believe in gods. Okay, this is a weird takeover by some people in the more modern times because when they started embracing this poison that there is only one creation and that it has or it must have a human form, they called it a god or a deity. They started teaching their ancestors, their followers, right, their people, and the future generations as well, the next generations as well, that the pagans would believe in more than just one god. Technically, they would not believe in gods. Now, let me think a bit about it. See, back in the times, there was a pagan belief called Satanism. Yes? This one worshipped a deity called Satan. Now, it is wrong to call them a deity because they're not necessarily a god. See, a god, when you call something a god, you refer to a greater force. Yes? Now, a god, or such a greater force, can be a force that belongs, for example, to a planet, or it can belong to a galaxy, maybe, or it can be from outside of this cosmos. Now, what these people believed in the so-called Satanism, the old one I refer to, not Neo-Satanism designed by Aleister Crowley, right, and their Satan's Church. I'm talking about one thing. See, these people in the old times, they believed in Satan. Now, Satan, this being, was someone who spoke about men and women being like gods and goddesses, that they have power beyond certain measure, beyond even their comprehension, and that they have to learn to use that power. They have to learn how to make use of everything that is on this world and make use of the resources in this world. Similarly, one may look at things and they can see a a similar principle is in the Abrahamic religions, or at least in Christianity. You are told that when humans were created, they were given a free realm over this planet and its resources, right? Now, the point of the old Satanism was also that if you give in to your urges too much, or if you embrace these things that you see around for too much, you will become his slave. Now, Satan was not a god. Those beings back in the time, they were not gods. They were impulses of the human mind, of the human physical body. They were actually impulses of nature. Because nature has given you a body for free, but it's not entirely for free. While you don't pay for it, obviously, when you are born into it, you must live by its rules for the longest time. Depending on the level of your awareness, you will live by that physical body's rules. And that physical body was designed to function in a way in which, even if you are entirely dumb and you don't know how to live your life, it will live its life. Because its only point is to be a vessel for you to simply advance your spiritual capabilities, your potential. And that will mean thousands upon thousands of lifetimes when you will be using lives like this. It's like living a video game where you die again and again and again until you beat the final boss, which is the transcendence of life and death, right? When you become one with creation again. So the point about Satanism is the old one, I mean. It told you that live life as you should, live life as you must, because you've got all the morals within your physical body, within each and every energy of your cells. That's why people nowadays, your children nowadays, will tell you that they don't like the ideas of, more modern agendas, because they know in each and every cell of themselves that it is wrong. Yes, they have not read any book about morality. Honestly, there shouldn't even exist books on morality, because you should feel the only morality that your race can ever exist by. It should be within your awareness. If it is no longer in your awareness, you're no longer a human, you're a subhuman. You're not even an animal, because animals also know their morals. Yes, they may break the laws of their own groups, but they know the morals by which they exist. Yes, you'll rarely see an animal commit self-harm unless they have been abused, um, or they felt abandoned. Yes, those are situations, because we humans are also animals as well in the end. It's just that we love pretending that we're much better than animals. We are better from certain perspectives, but we still live in nature. And the pagans would worship nature and its forces. Forces like Pan, or the old Satan, as people may think, Luciferus, the old one. Well, these were forces of the cosmos, not just of this planet. Those were forces that existed either within survival or within ascension or within different parameters of life. But those are forces, forces that anyone could access, because they are always available. It's just that it matters on people how open they choose to be. Yes? And when the Neo-Satanism was designed, well, their devil, the so-called Satan, is an actual construct. It is a being designed by some sick minds through occultism. Yes, you can call it like I forgot what that name was. Like a tulpa. I think some people use this word when you create more than just a thought. You create an entity that is, well, has a certain awareness and, well, lives separately from you and can be put to perform certain tasks. Yes. Neo-Satanism doesn't talk about Satan as being a god itself, or a being that will come on this planet, that will only be an overbuffed human being. Yes, a human being that has been attuned to enough madness that they have access to something that may look a bit supernatural. But occultism can actually allow you to do that when you understand certain rules and when you can control the energy around you in a certain way. After that level, teleportation, pyrokinesis, you name it, whatever you want, moving objects, setting stuff on fire from a distance, reading people's minds, those things can become natural to such people. Yes, they also can become natural to people who are purely spiritual, because spirituality is purely internal. The idea of occultism is usually external, because you will make use of the energies around you. Yes, the energies within other people. Now, when we think about gods, see, a lot of people are obsessed with this idea of gods, and religion has done a good deal of damage to our awareness, because it has programmed us to believe that our life should only be lived based on a book. If a book represents the best of your life, then where is your life? Because if something external has to decide your life, you're not living your life. All the morals that you should be living by are within you. They're not going to be found in books. If morals are to be found on books or on signs anywhere posted in society, that means that society is kind of sick. It has forgotten its roots. Because life has transcended in a horrible way when you moved from towns and villages to the cities. You may live in the prettiest city in the world, but it's still a prison. It's still a comfort zone, aka a prison in the end. Because you don't know anything, and towns and villages promoted life. Yes, because you lived in small communities. You lived in a situation where you had to work hard in order to achieve anything. You had to work hard to get any results that you wanted. You knew exactly where your food came from, and you were in communion with nature and with the food. In towns, somewhat as well. But in big cities, you don't know where your medicine is coming from, or whether you're actually taking some medicine, or you're taking some white powder and you're thinking that you're curing yourself. You're not knowledgeable of any source where your food is coming, and even if that is actual food, not something else that was disguised as that. If you look on the internet on how certain foods that you eat are produced, well, you're probably gonna want to move away from those foods. And if you like chocolate a lot, feel free to not watch any video on how chocolate is made. You'll probably uh, have a big wake up call. Now, if we look about this, all these so called gods are just forces. They are forces that are available to every one of us. You don't have to be an occultist necessarily. Some people are simply intuitive. They don't know what they are doing. They're not comprehensive of what they are doing. Probably their mind, their brain is empty most of the time, but they're still doing things. They're not even literate, maybe. There are cases of humans who've not been literate, but they knew how to do things without reading anything. Because all the information that you seek is already active within a certain layer of your existence. See, a psychopath doesn't read a book how to become a psychopath. He does not know how to conduct torture on others by reading books, right? They do that by practice, by using their imagination. And depending on your level of awareness, the more you can focus on something, on a single objective that you have to do, the more you become in tune with your intuition, and your intuition will tell you what to do. Do you think narcissists ever read a book on how to be a narcissist, on how to cheat on others, on how to exploit other people's emotions, on how to bend their realities, on how to make people dependent on them? This is simple. This is simply nonsense. Yes, only people who suffer from abandonment issues, they rely on books to tell them how to live life, because they've been taught by stupid schooling systems that reading books will make you feel accepted in society. Well, you've read so many books. You've done 12 years of school, probably even more. You've done faculty or, well, college, whatever way you call it. You've done master's degree. You've done probably even your doctorate degree or whatever it's called. And then what do you have? You have a stupid job surrounded by people who don't care about you. So you've been living a big lie regardless, right? Your silly religion that you believe in tells you that you will receive everything that you want, but first you have to die for that, because it will be somewhere up in heaven, and heaven also is not promised, right? Your silly religion tells you that you will be saved by some being that will come back again. Humans haven't even realized what Jesus is or what he was, and they're talking about him as if they are some kind of close relative to him, as if they know what Jesus has been, they know his life exactly. Because the more people abandon themselves, their inner child, their hope, the more they will embrace any other external source to give them hints on how to live life. Because people who have given up on themselves find no meaning in life, so they need to invent that. But they are too lazy to invent meaning, so they simply embrace anything that will give them meaning. If you don't do anything to improve yourself, you will be nothing else but a piece of mold that someone else will make use of to further their dreams. So the point is, no one has believed in any gods. Those were imaginations of certain powers, because simple people needed a certain shape and a name to believe in a certain idea, right? That is why you have a minimized version of creation that was called God because people had no other name, and that has a human form because otherwise humans probably would have doubted that. Imagine God if they were a dragon instead, or if they were a vampire, or if they were anything else, right? Humans wouldn't have been that drawn to them anymore, right? But if it is a bigger human, it is the wet dream of narcissists because that's how they envision themselves. Narcissists will always envision something better than them because that is technically what they wish to become, right? That is why I always tell people religion is highly narcissistic because you have to be quite dumb to believe that creation, which is beyond this cosmos, actually will ever have a shape that this physical cosmos has, right? This physical cosmos was designed from the outside by forces far greater than it. Those forces don't have any shape that we can imagine or even see. So definitely creation does not look like a human. That is only a human construct. And some occultists have ended up doing such constructs and, well, managed to plot people into believing in those constructs, right? You can reach certain spiritual dimensions which allow you to create mini gods, yes, because they have a physical body. So by design, they will not be that perfect as you may think. So they will not be that godly, but they can be infused with a certain stability, with a certain energy that will have a huge impact on any other being that enters its range, right? There are such temples scattered in numerous places in the world. Pagan societies back in those times knew about this. That's why they had their own beliefs. But, well, hypocrisy most likely got the better of their societies, and, well, they were met obviously with their doom. So people in those times did not believe in gods necessarily. They believed in forces of this cosmos that are readily available to anyone. You don't have to believe in Nemesis. You don't have to believe in Amaterasu or any other deity that you want. Those are just constructs of the human mind to portray certain powers of the cosmos that some people back in those times could access due to being focused on something. Why do you think in witchcraft they use objects that are called a focus? Because by basing their energy on that focus, they allow themselves to focus on their idea, on their chant as well. Therefore, um, resisting in a way the idea of distractions. Focusing on that object called a focus allows you to simply let any other thought go by and no longer attach yourself to it, no longer build new stories or reinforce old stories that you have already attached those memories with, those thoughts with, so that they can focus on whatever they want to do and achieve a certain result. Results through spirituality, witchcraft, and or occultism. Well, occultism and witchcraft are kind of the same thing. um, well, the point is that people have to understand that the results do not come instantly. In some situations, maybe, but the result came instantly because it was already on its way. And when someone started praying, I don't know how many times already, well, in that moment, it happened that something triggered for them. A lot of people take that for granted and believe that some kind of supernatural force helped them. Help will come to you because there are multiple forces in this cosmos. And depending on how people are connected or not to their intuition, to their cosmos, to their inner child, well, the point is, depending on that, they will receive more or less help. Some people are full ignorance, but they still receive help. So, no, they were not, nobody was believing in so called gods. Gods are just personifications, humanized versions of certain forces in the world. Those forces, you can imagine those like some kind of a wave or like a flowing river. They don't have a shape necessarily. Imagine them like a generator giving power to whatever gets too close to it, right? So people felt enlightened by such beings. People felt good by such entities, or I'd rather call them events or powers, because that is the better word that can be used for them. You may use event, or you may use, well, let's say a power. because when you speak about a manifestation, that means something much broader, something that has even a certain level of awareness. These helps that you can get from the cosmos may not have, or very rarely may have, an awareness of their own. But those are not necessarily beings, they are forces of the cosmos that creation has put at all possible dimensions of life, so that anyone who becomes aware enough of those, anyone who becomes strong enough spiritually, will actually have a grasp towards those and can actually improve their life or pursue a path by making use of these forces' help as well. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated, take care, enjoy life. This being said, Ferenc Board signing out.